What's up, guys? My name is Doofus Mcdooface, and today I'm going to be giving you 4 tips that will improve your skill level at Legion TD2. So let's hop right into it. Number 1, always split. Always split. If you've ever seen a board that looks just like this is not ideal. The creeps all flow in the same way. There's no splitting of the range. There's no splitting of the melee. It just doesn't make sense. And now a lot of people might say, well, I'm going for an AoE build, right? Building like in the center like this would make sense. And I guess that's fair. But then in that case, where you're AoE, you still want to split your ranged units. So although you're not splitting per se left to right, you're splitting per se in this manner. Now you could be splitting like this. A short but ranged DPS unit is in front of the tanks so that when the wave comes, it still gives the chance for this guy to tank a couple and the other guys to also tank a couple. Now this is of course not the most ideal split, right? Because we're dead center. But at least in this case, you would still be getting a split tank. Let's look at a better example. Now, this is a more ideal split that I would build. I would never build all my units in the middle, even when I am AoE. In this case, I have my Pyro on the wall, and I have a Devilfish right on the edge. So, in the perfect world, the Pyro is going to tank a couple creeps, and so is the Devilfish. This is going to drastically increase the chances that I can hold and hold at lower value. And see, this is perfectly what I'm describing. Pyro tanks, Devilfish tanks, happy doof, right? Now this is with AoE. Now you might want to be seeing a normal split, not an AoE split. So let's take a look at one of those. Now here's one of my favorite builds in the whole game. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know I love Mask. A unit on the left, a unit on the right, even split, right? This is what I'd have for a wave 4 in any normal Mask game. And so what I'm trying to do here is divert the creeps side to side, right? So we had the AoE split, and now we have another range split, but they're both ranged, and they're even with each other, right? And this causes half the creeps to go left, half the creeps to go right. Another one of the very important things of Legion, knowing how to split. Now let's take a look at ranged DPS in the split, and a melee. So I've got an infiltrator right here, just inside the circle of the Poda, so that she should still be able to tank. And then this infiltrator will catch the breakdown of the split, if not catching 1 or 2 of the Rockos here. So you'll see the Poda is tanking 1. See, she's tanking that 1, and the infiltrator tanks the rest. This now allowed all 3 of my units to at some point tank the wave. Now, you might be wondering, Doofus, why is it so important to split? Well, that leads me into tip number 2, that you should be always playing undervalue in almost every situation. The reason that you want to be undervalue, right? The reason you want to be undervalue is so that you can push more workers, all right? If you are always 130 over, right? If you're always 130 value over, yes, you will hold, right? But you're not going to put any pressure on your opponent, and your income, right? You're not going to be able to send that much Mythium. Your income is going to start falling behind. So you need to really learn different combos, different positionings that allow you to play undervalue. For example, let's look at the same exact units, placed 2 different ways, and see one of them hold, one of them leak, and realize that if you have the correct positioning, you can play undervalue. Whereas if you have incorrect positioning, you will not be able to play undervalue. So in order to play undervalue, you need to improve your positioning, which will allow you to play a little more aggressively. Let's take a look. All right, so here I've got a Nightmare on a Butcher. This is an aura. This is an amazing combo, probably my favorite in the entire game. Well, Here, I have the position wrong. The Nightmare is going to tank everything. Once again, there's no split, and you need to know that your damage unit should go in a safer spot. Let's see what happens when I start this. When the Nightmare seems to tank way too much, right? The Nightmare tanks everything, and it just completely dies. And the Butcher, I'm sorry, is not going to cover that up, right? You might kill the boss, but you're going to leak 67%. Not ideal. Now, let's just simply move this Nightmare somewhere else. Let's move him behind the Butcher. So, although there will be no split now, right? I'm telling you right now, there will be no split on this wave because of how Wave 5 works. However, what will happen is the tanky unit tanks first, allowing my damage unit to not die instantly. So instead of a 67% leak, while pretty undervalue, I turn into a 33% leak. And that was with the same units, just different positioning. And that's why it's so important to know the combos, know the positionings, in order to play undervalue. I mean, right here, once again, 110 under. If I added one unit in the correct position, I might be able to hold pretty darn undervalue Wave 6. But if I don't add them in the correct position, I'm going to have to play overvalue. Now, of course, playing undervalue comes with time. But at some point, you just got to start taking the risks of playing under. And yes, you might get punished, but it's worth the risk so that you start to learn, oh, I could be 5 or 6 workers Wave 3 instead of 4 or 3 workers just so I hold. Now, the third tip I want to tell you guys is tab spacing. What is tab spacing? Let's take a look at it. Tab spacing is when you hold tab and you are able to see your build from a grid position. In addition, you can see your teammates' build from a grid position. Now, how can this be beneficial? Well, if you think your build looks a little janky or you're trying to find out that perfect split, if you're placing deep coilers and you're trying to figure out how to place them, it can be very useful. In addition, by seeing your teammates build, you can know what weak waves they might have. Oh, my teammate has Pyro. He's probably going to be in a little bit of trouble on Wave 4. Maybe I shouldn't double up and also be weak Wave 4, right? This can be very helpful at the start of the game or at any point in the game. Maybe in the mid game, you're extremely weak Wave 12. Like this build right now, I just took the random build. You don't have a lot of units for Wave 12 outside of like Hellraisers, right? But I know that my teammate has Pyros, Archer, Casket, so many options for Wave 12. So that might allow us to then save. So knowing what your teammate has and doesn't have can actually give you a bit of communication without you actually having to communicate with your teammate. This is a team game at the end of the day. The next thing you can do is hold tab space. This will allow you to see your opponent's build as well as your second opponent's build, the one that's sending in to you. So if I see that my opponent that I'm sending to, Doofus Mcdooface, right? I see that I'm sending into the yellow bot here. He has a Sand Badger. I know that he is very weak Wave 4 because he's Impact Arcane. So I might think about a long save to Wave 4 and send a Fiend. Or maybe I see that he's super overvalue in the early game and I say, let's just turn on auto and just income King. I don't feel like putting any pressure on this guy. He's an overbuilder and not trying to play undervalue. In addition, I can see that, oh, the guy sending me is Flower. He might play super aggressive. I might need to dial my pushback just a little bit, right? I might need to be a little careful. Or the same thing, if I see that the opponent sending me is that plus 55, plus 75, then maybe I say, this is a game that I could maybe try to get away with pushing a little harder. So by seeing all 4 of our builds, right? I see my build holding tab, I see my teammates' build holding tab, and I see the 2 opponents' builds by holding tab space. It gives me a better understanding of the entire game. Knowing how many workers might be sending me gives me a bit of an estimation. Knowing if my opponents are leakable, right? Knowing how my teammate is sending his opponent. Is his opponent always overbuilt? Is his opponent super under, right? Is my teammate super over or super under? These things can really help you have a better understanding of the game you're playing in. All right, and the final tip I've got for you guys today is to always check the Legion spells. You just queued into a game, right? You just queued into a game, and you're trying to pick your mastermind. Wait, just wait 1 second. They added the Legion spells at the top, so you can see it there, and you can also see your teammate. Now, I'm old school, so I usually just click on the chat. So by clicking on the chat, I see that there's Glacial Touch, Counterattack, Lizard Army. Now I know the Legion spells that are coming on wave 11, and I can sort of work around that. In addition, I see that my teammate is Cartel. Holy moly, my teammate's Cartel, Counterattack. I'm clicking the Fiesta button, right? My teammate is Cartel, and Cartel Fiesta is a great combination. So by just opening up the chat or looking at the top, since they've added it, by just opening up the chat, I have an understanding going into this game what might be strong, what might be weak, right? For example, let's look at it one more time. You can hover over it here. Glacial Touch, Counterattack, Lizard Army. Now there's 2 aggressive spells there in Counterattack, Lizard Army. So I might not want to be too weak on 11 or 12 because I could be in danger, right? Or maybe playing Castle is a bit risky because I could receive a really big wave 11 send, and I haven't had that time for the income to start paying me off. So knowing the Legion spells and also your teammate's build, I didn't really get into that. I saw that my teammate was Cartel, right? But if I was really quick, I could even look at some of the units he had, right? Oh my goodness, my teammate has the new unit, Crab Warlock, right? If he overbuilds correctly, he'll be able to cover all my leaks, you know? Or maybe my teammate is starting a Sakura, right? I see that my teammate has locked in Seedling. He's going to go for a Sakura. So I probably shouldn't go Fiesta. So just by taking that extra quick look, it will take a little bit of time. You're able to see the Legion spells, and I didn't add it, right? I think maybe I did. The Legion spells and your teammate's role plus the mastermind they chose. Now, once again, let's just go over all of them again really quickly. Always split, even if you're AoE. It's going to help with number 2, right? By splitting, you are able to increase your chances of holding because you're using the health pool of everyone. You're using that lane more, right? You don't just want it to just be a ball and everybody fighting just completely. One unit dies, one unit dies, one unit dies. No, you want one unit tank a little bit, one unit tank a little bit, all at the same time. That's how you get those pro splits. That's how the really high-level players are holding 150 under, 1,000 under, right? And that's playing under value, right? By playing under value, you're going to have to learn to take some risks. By taking risks and playing under value, yeah, you might get punished. But then you might find that perfect combo that you can get away with it, right? You can get away with being super under. And now you can use that going forward. Next, always tab space, right? Have an understanding of the game at all times is going to help you. Like, yes, it's great if you build your lane perfect, right? Your lane is perfect. It's flawless. And then you look over and you see your teammate has like 20 pixies, right? He has no real value. Now you have to start thinking, how do we use this? How do we play defense? How do we play it aggressively based on my teammate's build? Or I'm looking at the opponent's build and I see that they're severely under, right? Are they pushing super hard into us? How do we work around that, right? And of course, at the start of the game, check those Legion spells, see your teammate's role. Now, I will put a disclaimer with the teammate's role. They would have to click it before you. Sometimes it's like I'm going to wait for you, you're going to wait for me, and everybody waits forever. But at least by seeing the Legion spells, you can sort of have a direction for your own game. Well, I hope these tips have helped you guys. and I look forward to making more learning videos. Let me know if this was helpful to you guys, and I will see you in the next Legion TD2 video.